So a couple of weeks ago now, To Your Eternity started airing on TV or Crunchyroll if that's where you're watching it. I'm pretty sure everyone and their mother has heard about it, and it seems like almost every anime channel on YouTube is reacting to it, which is pretty much how I found out that it existed, so thank you very much. So if you haven't seen it and you're just watching this as like a review, you might be thinking, what is the plot of the show? And this is a non-spoilery rundown. Basically, an orb gets cast onto the earth and is basically just left to figure out what to do and adapt. The orb can transform into other things, transforms into a rock, and then when a wolf dies on it, it transforms into a wolf. It then meets a human boy, and the human boy takes him in as his pet because he took on the form of his pet wolf. And then throughout the years, this immortal being basically becomes more and more human like, begins to understand people and the world, begins to adapt and transform, begins to figure out these new abilities. And there's good points and bad points, lots of emotion, and there's also these sort of mysterious enemies that will occasionally show up. And that's more or less the plot without getting like too specific into different arcs or spoilery, because I would say there are multiple like mini arcs throughout the years of the orb slash the boy slash Fu-chan. I can't really get into any of them because if I start talking about one, it'll probably spoil one of them on either side. But he meets a lot of really interesting people, um, and he is immortal. So do prepare yourself for that. I'm pretty sure that no one can or even wants to argue that it's an amazing show. It is, I'll tell you that right now. But do I think it has the potential to be a masterpiece? Honestly, I think it already is, which sounds very presumptuous, but the first episode of To Your Eternity is honestly one of the best episodes in general that I've seen in an anime in a very long time. Ignore that I'm sat in a corner, by the way. I'm also sat on the floor, sorry about that. But the first episode of To Your Eternity came out and I heard so many things about it, and I was spoiled for it. I think everyone who is anywhere on the internet at this point knows what happens in the first episode, but I'm not going to say it in so much detail just in case you haven't been spoiled or haven't watched it and you're deciding if you want to based off this video. Of which I would say please do watch it. It is actually incredible. But I was prepared sort of for what was going to happen in episode 1, but I still knew I couldn't handle it. So I actually took the time to read the first volume of the manga just so I could be more mentally prepared about what actually happens. And I still cried. I'm pretty sure that I cried for like a solid 10 minutes after the episode ended, and I think it says something, not just that the story itself is very emotional and you connect with the characters really well and really fast purely based on that one episode or one volume, but also just how good the voice acting is, the music is, the animation, that really made me cry because I was sad reading the manga, even though I knew it was going to happen. But even though I had read the manga and literally read it and saw it happen on page, seeing it happen in the anime made me cry. And I think that that says a lot for all the work people are putting in. The anime is so far a very close adaptation of the manga. In fact, it's almost identical, if not completely identical. And I have read ahead, and I can only say that I'm very excited for the rest of it. I think that it's going to be less intense than the first episode. I think the first episode slash volume was very intentionally heavy hitting and deep and emotional in such a short amount of time to sort of prepare you and show you the harsh realities of the world and let you know what the atmosphere would be of the series. But then the rest of it takes more time. There's a lot more light-hearted moments throughout it, and it's definitely not quite the same vibe as like the first volume. Definitely like parts of it remain the same. It's definitely about human nature and how humans change and adapt. It's about the boy becoming human. It does definitely get less intense than the first episode slash volume. From what I saw, almost everyone that reacted to episode one had a very emotional reaction, and I think that that is really indicative of how incredible this show is. The manga is absolutely incredible as well. Like, it's so well drawn, it's really well paced. Obviously, whoever came up with the idea, I don't know their name, but whoever came up with it and wrote it is obviously an amazing storyteller, has incredible ideas, and I wish I was half as creative as them. And it has these really lovable characters. Even the main character, like, I love him so much. The fact that he just develops and grows throughout the years. He's such like a nice person. You can read the manga on Crunchyroll as well. I have a premium subscription at the moment because I'm paying to excuse myself from doing any work for my real life. So at the moment, this is how I am distracting myself. But the manga is good. But if you are watching the anime and you want to have these first time reactions and emotions to the anime, maybe leave the manga till after, because so far the first three episodes are out and they're all a very, very close adaptation of the manga. And as much as I am loving the anime adaptation, part of me is wondering if I've somehow spoiled it for myself by reading the manga, purely because it's so close that even though I think that the music and the voice acting and the animation's absolutely incredible and adds so much to the story and really like adds to the emotion and the depth of the characters and everything like that, I know exactly everything that's gonna happen. So like anytime something happens, I'm like, okay, so then this happens after that, and that leads to this. So I think that's sort of one downside about having read the manga up to where I think the first season will end. But it is really good. I don't know if I've said that before, but like it is good. I would describe the anime as like psychological, but usually psychological, it's like related to horror. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a horror manga or show or anything, but it's psychological in the sense that it is about human development and like emotions. It really sort of connects, especially the first episode, to human wants and fears and desires, and it plays on that really well, which is why I think people had such an emotional reaction. But there's also, you know, friendship parts of it, there's like drama parts, there's action parts to it. The orb slash immortal slash food chan, he's literally, the name changes in almost every single version that I read. For some reason he's called Imo, which I'm wondering if that's just an anglicized version of Fu-chan. I don't quite know, but he can transform into a lot of different forms. I'm using he because that's what pretty much everyone in the manga uses, and also because he has the form of like a teenage boy, so I guess. But like technically he's an immortal orb, so it doesn't really have a gender, especially because he can go in between forms of any gender or species. So there are some really cool and interesting fights where he changes forms, and all of his forms are useful for different things. I'm actually really excited for the rest of the show. Like I've said, that the first episode's definitely the hardest hitting, and I imagine it will be the hardest hitting up until sort of where I've read till. The rest of the show, like I'm still prepared to cry. I will cry at any moment in that show, but I am excited to see the rest of it. It seems like this arc is wrapping up in the next one, so I'm especially excited for like episode 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8, because that part of the manga was constantly making me smile until it made me cry. So I'm excited for that, and I'm not sure how long the show was gonna be. I'm assuming like 11 to 12 episodes, but like I could be way off, and maybe they're just gonna adapt the whole thing in one go. Probably not though. But like if you haven't started watching it, I think you really should, because I am very excited for what they're gonna do. It's a very close adaptation to the manga, and the manga itself is already incredible, so you can only really get better whenever you add such talented voice acting and like great music and perfect animation. Just be prepared to feel emotions, but like it's definitely worth a go, and I honestly think it might be one of the best animes of the year, but it's April. I don't know. So far on my anime list that I have been keeping since I was 13, um I've rated it a 7.5. And a 7.5 seems low, especially because I keep saying, like, I think it's a masterpiece and it's probably going to be one of the best animes of the year, and I'm really excited for it. But, like, it's really hard to rate it based on 3 episodes. I think that by the time it finishes airing, it'll definitely be like an 8 or an 8.5, especially if it does keep close to the anime. And if it manages to shock me at any point and just improve from that, then that'll probably also help. But a lot of my super high rated anime is kind of like through nostalgia glasses that I rated whenever I was younger. And then also because this one, it kind of like is a little bit emotionally draining, I think that is also detracting from it. But I don't think that I will argue the fact that obviously it is probably better than some of the stuff that I have rated higher, and it probably will go up in rating after that. But I would say in total it's like at least a 4.5 stars out of 5. So my final thoughts are that To Your Eternity is an incredible anime, and I think it will only get better, and that if you haven't watched it, you should. And if you have the opportunity to read the manga, that you definitely should do that as well. Although if you want to be surprised by the anime, please wait till after it finishes airing to read it. But honestly, every aspect of the anime is just so good that it only ever adds to how good the manga is to begin with. And I'm just hoping that like suddenly it doesn't spiral downwards in quality, but I imagine that's not gonna happen. But you know, if that happens, I'll let you know. But so far, I would say that To Your Eternity is probably a masterpiece so far. Or at least the first episode is. We'll see.